Let's go. Welcome to the Cage Nation. Welcome to the Cage Nation. Welcome to the Cage Nation. No one can drop us, no one can stop us. We are the warriors, no one can top us, no one can rock us. We are the warriors, no one can drop us, no one can stop us. We are the warriors, no one can top us, no one can rock us. We are the warriors.
Welcome to another edition of Cage Nation TV. Drew Shannon, Albert Cameron, back in the Cage Nation TV studios, aka his living room. Back from another awesome event, CDMMA 10, and it was quite an event.
Yeah, we had a little bit of a layoff, and you know what better way to come back when CDMMA is promoting and doing great stuff like that, and then we get to do what we know best, which would be local fights and local fighters. So
it was an incredible card, top to bottom. We had a great time. Thanks to Nova 6, Drew Daria, everyone involved in CDMMA, and of course thanks to Rob Lynn, as well. Pat wasn't really a part of the episode.
Pat can't be. With Pat's new position with the Pennsylvania State Athletic Commission, unfortunately he had to give us his resignation. But he is an inspector with the Pennsylvania State Athletic Commission now, training to be at least one. So I feel really good about Pat being in the cage, because Pat's a no-nonsense kind of guy. And he's going to make sure that the fight surface is fair, the fight circumstances are fair. And Gregory Serb got a really good one with Pat Johnston.
Could not happen to a better guy.
No, absolutely not. And congratulations again to his baby girl being born.
Exactly. Pat Johnston and his wife,
Jeanette,
giving birth to a beautiful baby girl. So congratulations to them as well.
Yeah, welcome to the world, Britt Nicole.
And still on the hunt for Mike Kessling. Hopefully he'll make an appearance soon. Hopefully.
Here's hoping.
Here's hoping.
Alrighty. So today again, Drew, is the aftermath episode of CDMMA 10. We did the recap, but there was so many pieces in play from that event that it's kind of hard for everyone to get the real idea of what the true gravity of the event was.
Right.
So we're going to do an aftermath episode of this one.
Featherweight division is in for a big shakeup in CDMMA.
Absolutely.
We'll talk about what you can expect. Whole new breed of main eventer and how the promotion is changing as a whole. We'll get into that as well. And in the Cage Nation Underground, it's not the Cameron Underground, everyone. It belongs to you.
It belongs to the people.
The people.
Yes.
Do as you please. The Raging Bull, Rich Catalina, taking on Matt
Campbell.
I was going to say that.
Well, it's spelled weird. At least the video I found is spelled weird.
Campbell.
Yeah.
Anyways, Rich is going to take on Matt.
Yeah, Rich, of course, being he defended his complete devastation MMA featherweight championship, but we'll talk about that when we talk about the featherweight shakeup. All that and more
coming up next, right here on Cage Nation TV. Stay tuned. Cage Nation TV, Drew Shannon, Albert Cameron, and Albert, I'm telling you, a lot of things came out of last weekend's event. A couple of bombshell announcements as well.
coming from both sides of the amateur main event, from Ethan Goss and Rich Catalina. First of all, they said that there will be no rematch, which is extremely disappointing. The judges did what I talked to the judges in depth, and they had very, very good answers for judging the way that fight went down, and I can't argue with them.
Right.
Greg Serb puts them in place for good reasons, and they intelligently defended their decision. So, with that being said, I defer to the judges on that one.
Right. Ethan Goss, of course, visibly disappointed.
Oh, very much so.
I mean, directly after the fight and throughout the evening. And I know that fans were also, if you weren't a Catalina fan, you were not a happy camper that night.
Location does a lot of that sort of heated reaction. Ethan Goss from Petersburg, which is right up the road from Cameron Studios where we're at right now. Right. So, I mean, he did have hometown advantage.
Right.
A lot of Rich's supporters are coming from the Pittsburgh area. So, I mean, that, I think, kind of skewed the reaction in Goss's favor with the disappointment in the fight decision. But No rematch.
No rematch.
No rematch.
And let's just say this, a credit to both fighters. Both of them are excellent fighters.
Absolutely.
And they gave it their all in the cage. It just came down to a judge's decision, and
Right.
what the judges say are final. But honest to God, both fighters, they're both class acts. They shook hands, and they're the best of friends, too, which is even cooler.
Yeah.
When you can make a friendship out of the whole deal. And yeah, unfortunately, we will not see a rematch, but we look forward to seeing great things from both of them in the professional ranks.
Well, that was the second wave of the bombshell, was both of the guys are going pro.
Right.
Ethan Goss said, I'll be making my pro debut at Complete Devastation MMA 11, 12, 13, whatever the case may be.
And where did you hear it? Right here.
Exactly. Rich Canalina also made a similar declaration. He's going pro. There is no more amateur fighting for Rich Canalina, which he has 18 amateur fights, which is really thorough for an amateur career. Most guys will put in like 8 or 10 fights as an amateur career, and then they're ready to go pro. Charlie, I think, had like 6 or 7.
Something like that.
So Rich is going pro, Ethan's going pro, but do you know what that means now? The amateur featherweight championship now has to be vacated.
Exactly. So now we're looking for what? They're looking for a few good men.
They're looking for the new contenders. And I've got a list of guys I think that could possibly fill that void.
All right. Why don't you go ahead and tell us?
Okay. Well,
Whom?
in mixed martial arts, you were only as good as your last fight. That's just the long and the short of it. Osahan Omosagi is looking pretty good after his last fight. Now, he fights at bantamweight at the 135.
Right.
He weighed in at 137, so I think he could. I don't think dropping to or going up to featherweight would be a problem for him.
Right.
He's got fast hands, great head movement, quick feet. I think, given he doesn't have to cut as much, I think he'd be an absolute player in the amateur featherweight division.
What about Lenny Karlheim?
The king of the Altoona amateurs, he has to come back. He's training. He's at Dignan Brumbaugh. He's training. He's working his ground game like he always does. But then there's also talk that he's working with LaRon Williams in rounding out his hands and his striking ability, which is essential, paramount. Especially because the new breed of amateur fighter coming through Altoona, they know it all. You know, like having a great ground game, having a great stand-up game is essential, and Lenny Karlheim is evolving right with him.
Now, I'm taking a look at your list here as well,
Yeah.
and you have an individual here that it could be a little early for him to be considered for a featherweight championship.
Just made his amateur debut.
Corey Yarima just made his amateur debut at CDMMA 10.
I was so impressed with Corey Yarima and Bryce Shaw. Bryce Shaw being the other one on the list.
Right.
Those two guys, I mean, they came to fight. They had great technique. Bryce Shaw get the better of the exchange, but Corey Yarima didn't quit.
No, he didn't.
You know, there was no quit. And Corey Yarima has a great jaw, and I don't think we give him enough credit for it. The thing that impresses most with Bryce Shaw was his kicks. Was his kicks, but I mean, he took some pepper on the jaw.
Yarima.
Yeah.
Yeah, Yarima took a lot of shots to the face, shots to the jaw, but he was also taking those kicks as well, and he was still standing. And it wasn't until towards the end of the fight that you saw that those kicks were starting to have an effect. But for the first 2 rounds, though, I mean, he was standing tall. He was ready to rock. He was ready to go toe-to-toe, nose-to-nose, face-to-face with Bryce Shaw, and he wasn't going to back down.
Bryce Shaw's weapons were clearly his kicks.
Right.
That was Bryce Shaw's primary weapon. And between the second and third round, you can see that there was trauma to the joint.
It was very noticeable.
Yeah. If you take away your ability to plant on that lead leg, you can't mount an offense.
And we've said it before, and we've said it again. You can't stand, you can't fight.
Yeah, exactly. Now, to Corey Yarima's credit, if you can't stand, you can't fight. I mean, one of the next logical things to do would be take him to the ground.
Right.
Corey Yarima stuck with his game plan. He's like, you know what? I'm setting out to do this. And he didn't abandon that game plan. Which, second round, or the third round of an amateur fight, probably not the best time to switch to like, okay, now I'm going to take him to the ground and try to pound him out. Because you're going to end up laying there you're going to end up stalling for the duration of the round.
Right.
So Corey Yarima really impressed me. Bryce Shaw, of course. Corey Yarima and Bryce Shaw were similarly heighted. But you can see that Bryce Shaw's shorts were higher on his physiology than what
You
Corey
had noted
Yarima's.
that in the fight, when we were talking.
So that indicates that Bryce Shaw's got longer legs.
Right.
And he used those kicks to keep range and to do damage. That's the kind of fight that we love. I mean, that's the kind of amateur debut fight that we're able to proudly say, hey, you want Pennsylvania amateurs? Our amateurs do it better than anybody for those kind of reasons.
And I think, of course, we did have that night some of our good friends from Pittsburgh in attendance. They've got to be looking at these kids for at least a future fight at some point. They have to be.
There's a lot of evidence we'll talk about the CDMMA changes as a whole, but the Altoona fights matter. They have much larger implications. We'll talk about that a little bit later, but fighting in Altoona, going to see fights in Altoona, you're doing yourself a favor because you're seeing the seed start, and they do have much bigger applications. One name that I didn't add on the list that just kind of popped in my head right now is, why not Zachary Schultz?
Why not?
Zachary Schultz contended for the CDMMA Featherweight Championship whenever Rich Catalina won it. Personally, with Zach Schultz's ground game and with Lenny Karlheim's ground game, that's a fight I'd like to see.
What about Charlie?
Charlie
Gathers.
He's pro.
Oh, that's right, he's pro.
He's pro.
Yeah. Cross 10 off the list.
Charlie Gathers, of course, was, I think, the first CDMMA featherweight champion. So, I mean, his presence in the featherweight division is still felt to this day because of the impacts that he made.
Chuck, I know you're pro. I just got a lack of sleep last night, so I apologize.
That's what I'm here for, to make sure that we keep the information.
You're here to carry me throughout this whole thing, because I'm an idiot. All right. Well, any final thoughts? Are we good to go? Gonna go into.
I think what needs to be said about the CDMMA Featherweight Championship is that it is the most hotly contested title in Altoona.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, the days of heavyweight championships being like the it title are long gone.
Right.
You know, Pennsylvania does lighter weights, and like I said, you know, I don't really want to hear anything about the war on obesity whenever the heaviest guy in the CDMMA card was 185 pounds. You know, like, featherweight is the it division, it's the it title. Featherweight has also made and broken a lot of guys too. Charlie, of course, being a featherweight champion, amateur, he went on did bigger things. Rich Catalina went on to becoming one of the bigger amateur names in Pittsburgh. Ethan Goss challenging for the title, so the next guy has got big shoes to fill. And
it's amazing how the times change, of course. Back in the day, it was always the bigger guys, the heavier guys, the stronger guys.
Yeah.
Now, as time has progressed, the size of the guy has diminished, but the fights have been incredibly more aggressive, more noteworthy.
Yeah.
And I guess they're a lot more fun to watch.
Well, let's talk about like public knowledge too. I mean, like back in the 90s, or like before, let's say 2000, public knowledge was, okay, Mike Tyson's a boxer.
Right.
He's a notable boxer. What weight division he fight in? Heavyweight. Muhammad Ali. You know, Smoking Joe Frazier. These guys were all heavyweights. Now you think of like, okay, well, who's a boxer? Floyd Mayweather. Manny Pacquiao. Like, you know, these guys are lighter weight fighters. So the heyday of the heavyweight is gone.
Right.
And the era of the featherweight is still going strong in Altoona.
Featherweight, the lightweight divisions, all the lighter weights. That seems to be the way to go. When was the last time we actually saw a heavyweight bout?
In Altoona?
Not even in Altoona, just in general.
Clark Young.
Clark Young fighting at
Road to Glory 3.
And that was a while ago.
Versus O.J. Vickers.
Yeah.
That was almost 2 years ago.
Yeah. So, and I'm not taking anything away from the heavyweights because they'll kick my ass.
Heavyweights almost killed me once.
Yeah. But, I mean, it just seems the focus is more on the lighter weights. On the kind of the smaller guys, if you will.
Heavyweights are capable of high quality fights. It's
Right.
the saturation of talent pool that's drawing attention to featherweight. We have more guys who are the body type for featherweight than we do at heavyweight. So like, you know, these guys are constantly competing to keep their name relevant. I mean, I can name off heavyweights. I mean, I know there's Clark Young, O.J. Vickers, Adam Smith Urbany. You know, there's a lot more guys who need to be relevant in featherweight at this particular moment in time.
All right. Coming up in just a few, we're going to be talking about the new breed of main eventer and how CDMMA will continue to grow.
Yeah.
That's all coming up next after this on Cage Nation TV. Stick around. Welcome back to Cage Nation TV. Drew Shannon, Albert Cameron. We're talking about the aftermath of Complete Devastation MMA 10 and what it means for the promotion as a whole. And of course, a new breed of fighter is going to be stepping up eventually.
Well, they have to. The way you kind of gauge the health of any good promotion is are the guys who brought you to the dance, are they moving on to bigger and better things?
Mm-hmm.
Well, that answer is yes. And 2, can you see the horizon of new guys coming down the line?
Right.
Fortunately for CDMMA, yes, that is still the case. I mean, there are new guys, there are new fresh faces coming into CDMMA, and we can thank Ryan Glunt for that.
That we can.
He's doing a consistently great job of bringing new guys in and keeping Altoona relevant.
Now, 2 great pro card fights. David Horacio Jr. defeating Robert Corpora in 27 seconds, mind you.
Yeah.
And Travis Wineland's return and victory over Steve Smith. Both those guys could be potential main eventers.
Easily. I meet Davis Horacio Jr. At the we were getting the stats before the fight.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm going around like, hey, Davis, how you doing? This guy just has it. He's got a charisma, and we didn't have a chance to see that in 27 seconds of Robert Corporea chowing down on Horacio knee.
Right.
It's just unfortunately we get to see that. So I think Davis Horacio Jr. has a lot more that he's able to offer to a show, and I hope that we snatch him up in Altoona. I think he's got a lot of great stuff going on. I think he's got the it factor, the charisma. Davis Horacio Jr. I think could be main event as long as we're able to prove that he's been tested properly. I think there's a lot of guys in the pecking order who are fantastic fighters. Davis Horacio Jr. Clearly has KO power, but he's also got a charisma and showmanship. And I think we bring the right middleweight in. I think we got a barn burner main event in our hands.
Let's talk Brett Showtime Schoenfeld.
Welterweight champion. That welterweight championship that he holds is very prestigious. Of course, the person who held it before him was Jordan Rinaldi. Mm-hmm. Jordan Rinaldi went on to trying to fight into the Ultimate Fighter 15 cast, I think. I think it was 15. So. Yeah, he was trying to fight in the house, didn't make it, but still, we could say a welterweight champion from our area was on national television and was fighting to get into the Ultimate Fighter house. So, I mean, Brad, clearly he's got the strap, he wears it around proudly, he's got to get back in and defend it.
Right. And the reason why, he was, of course, taken out of... He was supposed to be at CDMMA.
He was supposed to fight at CDMMA 10.
Due to his injury at World Series of Fighting,
yes,
he was unable to be cleared for that fight.
And once you start messing with the eyeballs,
yeah,
Pennsylvania State Athletic Commission jumps in and is like, absolutely not.
So looking forward to seeing Brett back in the cage at some point.
Absolutely.
CDMMA has drawn big names
they have.
In the past. Corey Real Deal Hill.
The night that Altoona almost burnt down. The Darce choke that... I went back and I watched that event. That Darce choke that stopped Daryl Madison. Mm-hmm. And in hindsight, we know that, we watched Daryl Madison separate from consciousness. At the time, we didn't know what we were seeing.
Right.
We're both like, oh my God, we don't know what's going on, That's a slick finish. Mm. Chip Snyder's no dummy. I mean, he knows when someone's out in potential danger of brain damage.
Right.
And Corey Hill, he won that fight. It was decisive. It was fantastic. Jeff Smith, who fought for World Series of Fighting, and I think he tried it for the Ultimate Fighter House too. Daryl Horcher went to Bellator. Of course, the kick her around Logan Valley.
Right, and of course against a big name in his own right.
M1 veteran George Shepard. Well, on paper, Daryl Horcher should have never won that fight.
Exactly, and we say that time and time again. I mean, anything can happen on any given night.
Exactly, and that's what makes professional mixed martial arts so much fun to watch. Is that there are so many facets to the game that even though I'm not a good striker, I might be able to stop someone by submission.
Right.
That is the real essence of that we all come together and watch fights because we don't know.
And that's the thing. We have all these big names coming that have come into to complete devastation. It can happen again.
Oh, absolutely. Dan Severn was there, and if Pennsylvania had allowed him a fight, he probably would have been in the main event of CDMMA too. Jim Ehlers went on to win gold in Europe for Cage Rage. Jim Ehlers, who's now a UFC veteran, fought in Altoona.
Right.
2 years ago. In November 2012, Jim Ehlers... Was that 2 or 3? 3. Because Rinaldi versus Dixon was 2. Jim Ehlers was in the main event of 3. But still, a guy who fights in the UFC fought in Altoona. Of course, Jim Ehlers. Charlie Brenneman fought in Altoona and now fights in the UFC. There are much, much larger implications to Altoona fights than I think a lot of people will give them credit for.
Now, we're talking about fights in the Altoona region having bigger implications. Brett Schoenfeld was fighting in Pittsburgh just days before beating Ted Worthington.
Days after he beat Ted Worthington.
Was it days after?
He beat Ted Worthington at CDMMA. Like 9 days later, he was fighting in
Oh,
Pittsburgh.
that's right. Okay. Ethan Goss, Rich Catalina.
Two of the very amateur prospects in Pittsburgh.
Very prolific. Jordan Rinaldi, Jeff Smith went on a fight in an episode of The Ultimate Fighter, as we discussed. And of course, Daryl Horcher going on to Bellator.
We don't ever want to get into a spot where we think our fight scene's irrelevant, where fights don't matter. And fortunately, we are at a spot where, yes, these fights matter, they have implications. Charlie winning the main event of CDMMA 10, I mean, like, his prospects just went up, you know. He might be getting phone calls for larger promotions. He's actively involved with Pinnacle. He's actually fighting in Pinnacle.
He is.
Thanksgiving Eve.
That's exactly right. November 26th?
Yeah.
If I'm not mistaken?
Because Thanksgiving's the 27th.
Okay, there we go.
So again, the Madman, much larger implications. He's on a 3-fight roll right now. That's a good momentum to have. And I've said it time and time again, a very calm Charlie Gathers is a lot more dangerous than an amped up Charlie Gathers.
Exactly.
When he came into the Jaffa Moss for CDMMA 10, he was very calm. He was like, I'm doing great. That is the Madman that will hurt you.
Right.
And hopefully Charlie's taking that Madman to Pinnacle. Brett Schoenfeld not only went into Gladiators, he also went in the World Series of Fighting. Like, you know, Altoona fights matter. Our scene is relevant. Things are happening. Things that happen in Altoona have impacts on things that happen in larger areas.
And if you haven't seen these guys at the local level, by all means, next time MMA comes to an arena near you, get a ticket, get your butt in a seat, kick back, and relax, and enjoy a great night of fights. And then when these guys get to the bigger stages, the grander stages, UFC, Bellator, World Series of Fighting, the list goes on and on. When they get to these bigger promotions, you could say, hey, I saw that guy when he was just starting up. He was a heck of a fighter then.
With the sport being as infantile as it is, we all have the ability of being that guy, that sports guy who's like, I remember seeing him fight back in the day.
Right.
You know, like, we all have the benefit of that. And I want that for myself. I want that for you. I certainly want for everyone who's watching Cage Nation TV to have their hands in the scene of local fighters who are going to go on to big names. Chris Dempsey is UFC bound right now, and his contract got extended. I think if he drops down the middleweight, we got a big-time player in our hands.
It's like going to a concert and seeing one of the local bands or the lesser-known bands on the bill.
Yeah.
And then you see them break out and do great things, get a major recording contract, get videos, and their CD sales are going great. You sit back and you get that feeling that you were actually part of that success. Same goes with the guys, the up-and-coming fighters here in the Altoona area or in the local region, in your local region, wherever you're watching. You get that sense of, I was there when that happened. I saw him when. And you kind of feel that you're a part of that guy's success.
Matt Adams played baseball for Phillipsburg, Osceola, 30 minutes away from here, and now he's playing for the Cardinals. Like, you know, our scene, the closing thoughts are that is our scene matters.
Right.
The things that happen in Altoona have an impact, and the good news is we are still relevant, and it is still strong, and I'm proud to be a part of it.
All right, moving on. Let's get into the Cage Nation TV Underground. What do we got on tap for him, Albert?
Well, we got defending champion Rich Catalina. He's taking on Matt Campbell from way back in the day. Amateur fights. And we got the Raging Bull Rich Catalina versus Matt Campbell right here on the Cage Nation TV Underground.
Go.
Don't worry about remote signal blockage again. Introducing the Top Mount. This low-profile shelf is perfect for placing your cable box where you can use it. The easy-to-install lightweight shelf is designed to fit behind almost any flat screen TV, with or without a wall mount. The Top Mount is perfect for easy access to cable boxes, game consoles, and DVD players. Don't have your signal blocked again. Order your Top Mount today at thetopmount.com.
Let's go!